This is the first time where I think we're all gonna have smiles on our faces while uh while talking to one another. How are we doing today, guys?
Good, good,
Yeah,
surprisingly good.
doing pretty good.
Haven't heard that in a while. Have not heard the words "I've been good" in quite some time.
In the context of this team, that's a definite.
God, it feels good that they did the impossible. I didn't think they had it in them. I really didn't. It's been a long road to get to this moment, but here we are. The Buffalo Sabres have won two consecutive games for the first time
The
since November
impossible's
1st.
happened.
It's
It's
about
finally
damn
happened.
time.
In the distance, you can hear Al Michaels' words echoing throughout. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah,
I'm JP.
And I'm Christian.
and once again, we'll be talking to you about all things Buffalo Sabres hockey, and for a little bit, for the first time in a little bit, some wider NHL stuff. Since the Sabres didn't really make us miserable again, we can actually muster the energy to talk about some other things. But to get right into it, the Buffalo Sabres won two consecutive games, defeating the Montreal Canadiens in a 5-1 rout, and then beating the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-1 last night. They did it. They did it. They did the thing. They did the thing we didn't think they could do, and the jokes rained in as they should have.
And even Alex Tuck was mentioning in the post game that the narrative will be gone.
They've seen it all. They have Twitter accounts. They've seen all the jokes everyone's made about it. But it is really about damn time. It's been way too long. And a run like that should not happen. But of course it happens to this team, right?
Of course, it goes without saying that this hockey team is dumb, but it doesn't take a lot to get you back into things with them. It does not take a lot. I remember we were closing last episode, and I believe I said that I didn't care about this team unless they pulled off a 6, 7, 8 game win streak and a 2 game win streak. I'm back. I'm back in. They wrote me back in. Doesn't take much.
Doesn't take much to get the fans back and invested, and I think a lot of people already are. I mean, we're like another win or two in a row away from actually maybe being in the race.
I'm still cautiously optimistic. Like it'll make it more fun to turn the game on, but it's just like until they win more than two in a row, like I don't know.
Just enjoy it. Just
Yeah, you
enjoy it for
enjoy it.
now.
Enjoy the wins. Always enjoy the wins because wins are difficult to come by.
You don't get many streaks like this very often, as we know. Hell, the Sabres they don't even have an official winning streak this season. We joke about 2 games, they haven't had a 3 game win streak yet. So the next game is gonna be the real test.
Against a team that we've never beat in our franchise's history. So it will be a true test.
We're
I know
so due against them. It's unreal. Like
Chris,
even
Chris,
going back a couple seasons, it's ridiculous. We're so
Christian
due to beat them.
Christian has a bone to pick with any expansion team, especially one that is undefeated against the Sabres through their first 2 years.
Yeah, I they're that's all I'm gonna say. They're due for a win. It's a numbers game. If they win again, if they lose again to this team, and it's just gonna be like, man, I don't think they'll ever win against them. But
Mhm. Well, we'll get into that homestand and more, but first, let's recap the games. Let's get into these 2 games. The Montreal game, the Sabres come out of that with a 5-1 victory. Two big storylines coming out of that game, in my opinion. Number one, Devin Levi's homecoming to Montreal in his hometown against his hometown team, puts up a pretty solid performance. So close, well, I shouldn't say close, but his first NHL shutout was right, would have been so cool if it was against his hometown team. But great performance nonetheless. He comes home and with his family in the stands, and there were social media videos going around with him meeting up with them afterwards. A great night all around for him. I can only imagine what that feels like.
Yeah, he was awesome. He made a lot of big saves. He looked like the Devin Levi that, we all expect from him. So he was I mean, I know the score ended up being 5-1, but a lot of that game was closer and he really kept us in it.
Yeah, 100% agreed. But I think it was just a big all around win for the team. I mean, you put up six. Well, how many times a year have they done that? Like last season, it felt like they were putting up six every game. So it's good to put the puck in the net more than, once or twice a game. But yeah, Devin Levi 100% kept us in that.
And the other big storyline, Jeff Skinner friggin' hates the Canadians, but he loves playing against them. A 4-point night. A 4-point night for Jeff Skinner. Should have been 2 goals, 2 assists, but it's 1 goal and 3 assists. I I don't get it. The dude is Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, whoever you
He
want to say he is.
he hates Montreal. It's plain and simple. He hates Montreal. Didn't he put up 4 goals against them one time?
Yeah, a few years ago, he had 4 goals in a 5-point performance. He just
Ugh.
loves playing against them.
Yeah, I wish we could play Montreal every game.
I mean, that whole top line just looked really good. I mean, Tage is starting to look like he's back and the top line actually producing. I mean, that's something that we've been missing. And it's very encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, just take a listen to. I mean, this one stat is insane. With 3 points in tonight's game against Montreal, Jeff Skinner has recorded 15 points in his last 6 games against Montreal. Only Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky have recorded more points in a 6-game road span against the Canadians in NHL history.
That's crazy.
That's some pretty
Bad
good
man.
company.
That's a bad man out there.
Insane.
It's a good
Insane.
compare. There are good comparables for Jeff Skinner.
They're
But
great comparables.
also a big bounce back performance because last episode we were on him. He had a tough two to 3 game stretch where he kind of looked a bit disinterested, but obviously nothing to get him back into the swing of things than against a team like Montreal, who he just dominates.
And he was pretty good on the power play against the Canadians.
Speaking of the power play, speaking of the number 2, as we open this episode, 2 power play goals against the Montreal Canadiens.
Never
And
thought
they
I'd
were
see the day.
nice. And they were nice power play goals to boot.
Mm-hmm.
First one, Rasmus Dahlin gives it to Jeff Skinner on the goal line, who slides it across to Casey Middlestat backdoor. Wow. A cross ice on the goal line pass results in a goal. Who would
And
have thought?
all the slander I've heard about Jeff Skinner standing at the goal line on the power play, I don't want to hear it anymore. That's where he needs to be every single time.
He's unbelievable.
And it's even funnier because on the second goal, he scores from that spot. Tage Thompson gives it to Alex Tuck, who, as I was talking about last episode, how they don't do this enough. Tuck slides it across the goal line to Jeff Skinner, backdoor. He roofs it. 2 straight power play goals. Those are the plays we've been wanting to see. Those are the plays. It's amazing. The puck goes down low or just in a different area and lanes open up, options open up, and they're able to score.
It's
Doesn't
just gotta-
amazing.
take much.
It's
They just
amazing
got to
how
get
once
more
you actually
creative.
score on the power play, the games come a lot easier.
Yeah, they just needed to get more creative. Like again, I still have a gripe with them with the way they, handle setting up. And it's not the drop pass, okay? The drop pass works. It just doesn't work for this team half the time because they're not doing it properly. But the way they set up and the way they break in, it's way too messy. It's way too complicated. It results in a lot of odd man rushes, but it's good to see them getting more creative with the way they're, structuring the power play and the way that they're cycling the puck around. They're getting people into the middle of the ice. It's not all perimeter anymore. So it's a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And when we get into the Pittsburgh game, it was kind of right back to, business as usual almost.
Yep, you're hinting at the fact that it's still not perfect, which we would see a few minutes later as they would get another power play. And it was a rough shift for the first unit. And Montreal dumps the puck into the Sabre zone, and the first unit goes to change, except for Rasmus Dahlin. And Rasmus Dahlin tries to finagle his way past Joel Armia, doesn't, turns the puck over. Armia roofs it, and there's your shorthanded goal.
For the
Power
Montreal
play
Canadiens.
giveth, power play taketh away, as Christian so perfectly put it.
That wasn't one of Dahlin's best moments. That was probably the most frustrated I've ever been with him because it was coming off of earlier in the period when he also kind of just gave the puck away. So he had a rough outing that night, but
Still
everyone
ended
has their
with a
bad
goal.
games. Yeah, ended with a goal. Everyone has their bad games, but yeah, it sucks too because it would have been a shutout for Levi, but the only goal that was scored against them, of course, was shorthanded. But yeah,
We
it
have
is
to
what
have
it
given
is.
up the most shorthanded goals in the league, right?
At least chances,
Am
It's
I
got to be
wrong?
up
chances,
there.
chances by a mile.
I'll look
I
it
know
up.
for a while there that their their chances against their expected goals against on the penalty kill, it was first in the league. I know Evolving Wild had them first, but I haven't checked in a while. But
Number one, baby.
they're
We're
still up. I'm
tied.
sure they're still up there
We are tied with, I believe, the Hurricanes and the Panthers with 7 goals allowed against.
for first
Hmm.
place.
Yep.
Number one in chances against and actual goals allowed. Double champs.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're at the
if you
top of
want to put it
something.
that way.
To kind of continue with that Darlene point, this is something we've been talking about for the past few episodes because we've been digging into the core of this team a little bit, and Darlene's the one that I always get a bit of pushback on. It seems whenever I try to, I shouldn't say whenever, but sometimes when I'm handing out some criticism and specifically towards him. I remember earlier in the season, I put out a tweet. An account asked who are your most surprising and most disappointing players of the season for the Sabres. And for most disappointing, I put Darlene relative to expectations. And I remember I got some pushback on that.
A lot of hate. You got a lot of hate for that.
Whenever I have kind of laid out some criticism towards him, some people always point to his point totals, point to his production. He's leading the NHL's defensemen in goals. And while I understand that, it's great he's still producing. It's great, obviously. At least he's still contributing. My point about him is I just have higher expectations. He's your franchise piece. You gave him $11 million in the offseason. He's gonna be your captain. And he hasn't been consistent enough this season. And I think these past few games, even last night in Pittsburgh, I didn't think it was one of his best nights. He just has to take charge more, and which he did all of last season. He was their guy, night in and night out. He was their guy. That was the guy that was given $11 million, the guy that's gonna be the next captain of the team. I just need to see that more.
And with time, we'll see that. You know, careers aren't linear paths. They don't go up as you hit your prime and then, level off and go down as you get older. There's ups and downs, and every player goes through them. And you know what? If I had to bet on anyone that could, bounce back the way that a premier NHL player could, it's Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think that his biggest downfall though has been his defense has dropped off a ton this year. I mean, he was a very good defender last year, and this year he just hasn't been. And maybe that's partly due that him and Samuelson just have not been good together this year. And that's been evident like the whole year, and they refused to change it, and they finally did change up the dude pairs. But I mean, he still is producing. But I'm looking at the top goal scorers for defensemen right now. Quinn Hughes is, I know plus minus is dumb stat, but he's plus 26. He has 10 goals. Darlene's minus 13. That's a 39 goal differential. Like it's just
And JP pulling out the boomer stats.
it's
Let's
a 39
go.
goal differential. I mean, that's crazy.
so what you're saying is you would take Quinn Hughes in a 2018 redraft.
No, definitely not. But I think that also just shows where Vancouver's at versus where Buffalo's at. But
Uh,
I
I
don't,
too,
Darlene
I
will figure it out.
I too would like to ride an all-time PDO.
The
They're
Canucks are a
tough
weird
because
team.
you keep
They're a
expecting
weird
them.
team,
You keep expecting them to drop off.
and they
They
haven't.
just keep go. They dominated the Devils last night.
Yeah, it's weird coming from last season as to like, they just kind of burned out pretty quick. Like I was not expecting the quite this level of turnaround, and it also kind of puts a pretty big damper on our Elias Pettersson mock trades or whatever you want to call it to the Sabres. But again, that could, it could change.
In due
That's
time.
why the fall
Just
off will be even better. It'll be even better.
that first round sweep is gonna hit like some fresh morning air. To close it on Darlene here, like Christian said, it's not that I don't doubt that he's not a franchise player anymore. I just need to see him do it because I know he can, and I know he will. He just needs to do it quicker. Needs to be now. Needs to be when this team has to get on a run here. Tage is getting healthy. That top line is finally going. The kid line is putting up good results. The rest of the lineup is slowly but surely starting to kick into gear. Darlene has to lead the defense. But before we get off the Montreal game, JP did kind of allude to it. There were some defensive pair changes. Don Granato, after the Ottawa debacle, said that there were some things he didn't like from their defensive pairs, and he finally swapped some names out. Darlene went back with Yoki Haru, Owen Power got paired alongside Eric Johnson, and Mateus Samuelsson finally got booted from the top four, put into a third pair role with Connor Clifton. And it's looked pretty good the last two games. It's looked pretty good. Mateus Samuelsson especially. Suddenly he looks effective when he's put in a lower role. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
And he's still putting up minutes. It's just the fact that he's not matched up against the top line every single time with Darlene. But no, it's good. I mean, Ryan Johnson not being in still isn't ideal, but I don't think you can really complain about the defense right now. Like even Eric Johnson has been better as of recent, and we've mentioned that. And Connor Clifton has been a lot better recently. He's been putting up the assist numbers too. He's been making some really good plays. So it's encouraging to see.
Connor Clifton, I agree with. I think he's been a lot better. Eric Johnson, we haven't talked about the Pittsburgh game yet, but the one like the one goal that got, put up against, he was just standing
Are you
there.
talking about the 5-on-3?
He
Yes,
is. He is.
I am.
It was a pretty bad play. It's
He was
funny. I'm
just
the
standing
opposite.
there.
I
Ricard
wasn't.
Raquel was just, wide open. And Eric Johnson was on him. He just didn't put a stick on him.
It's the
But
opposite for me. Like I think Connor Clifton has been better offensively. I think the Alex Tuck goal against Pittsburgh was a prime example of that. Just an unreal outlet pass. I just think his defensive game is oof. Still needs some work. Every time
mm,
every single breakaway that the Penguins ended up getting, I felt like Clifton was the one skating after whoever was on the break. But to get back to the more positive stuff, I do think the pairs have looked good for the most part. Darlene and
yeah.
Yoki are doing well. Power and Johnson have been pretty steady. And like I said, Samuelsson has looked good in a lesser role. Obviously, you want to see Ryan Johnson get back into the lineup, but hey, the team's winning. Can't say that very often. So it's not like they're losing and he's out of the lineup. They're putting up results.
Yeah, it does come down to winning at the end of the day, but also it's like I still have that, thought in the back of my mind. It's like ice your best lineup, and Ryan Johnson is one of your top six defensemen. Like him sitting out doesn't make your team better just because you're winning. Maybe you're winning in spite of him being out, but also, maybe the forwards are doing better. Maybe we're putting the puck in the net more, all that
Well,
stuff.
it's like when we were playing good, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and Yoki wasn't playing and he was scratched. I mean, he's been one of our best defensemen, but we won some games without him. Like it's not always because of, the guys were scratching, because Ryan Johnson should be. He's arguably the top four defenseman on the team. So I mean, as long as they're winning, you can't complain. And I don't think Eric Johnson or Connor Clifton has been as bad, where the complaints really aren't as valid. Where in the beginning of the season they were completely valid. So it's nice to see that they've switched it up and it looks better. So hopefully they continue.
Hopefully he works his way back in, but like I said, like JP perfectly put it, it's not as egregious as it was, say, even a few weeks ago when he was being scratched. Johnson and Clifton have been at least better, and you can at least see why Granado is keeping the lineup together. Not only because of player performance, but because of team performance. The team is winning. All right, let's jump over to the Pittsburgh game. So the Sabres pick up a 3-1 win in Pittsburgh, and this big story coming out of this game, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen with a big performance. Christian, why don't you talk about it some more?
You want me to talk about it? I mean, good for him, but again, I'm not give I it's like you guys force my hand to give him props and I have to. And also I should be because he played a really good game. But how many times have we seen this story where the next game or a game or two later he gets thrown in and he gets a six-piece put on him? So don't come crying to me the next time UPL goes in net and he lets in 7 goals. This is how he is.
I
So
think I've heard you say
that's all I'm
that
gonna
at
say.
least 5 times this season,
Yeah.
and I'm
And
not even
have I been
joking.
wrong? Have I been wrong?
I mean, he's been good this year. I mean, he hasn't been amazing, but he's been. I think
All right.
there are
Yeah.
some clear UPL stance on Twitter,
He
and
hasn't
you
been
are probably
amazing.
one of the biggest UPL haters I
You're on
know.
a
Yeah.
list somewhere.
He hasn't been amazing, but what's the reason he hasn't been amazing, JP?
He's
What
just
do
a
you
wild
mean?
card.
His
You just don't know what you're going to
consistency.
get. Yeah, it's just a
His
wild card.
consistency. That's what separates a good goalie from a great goalie. And I give him all the props for making 43 saves, 42 saves against a decent Pittsburgh Penguins team. But again, I'm not sold on him being a part of this roster going forward until he could string games together. And I haven't seen it yet. So when he does, I'll eat my words. But now this is what I'm saying, and I'm sticking by this.
Can we just have a positive episode, Christian? Can you just give the guy his roses?
I
Even
did.
Alex
I
Tuck
did.
after the game said that's some of the most confident hockey I've seen him ever play. So,
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
when UPL plays confident, I'm confident when he's in net, but you could tell when he's not playing confident, he's second guessing himself.
Right. Inconsistent. Moving on. Let's go back to the positive.
Well, to close it on UPL, so he finishes the night at 3.13 goals save above expected. That's according to Evolving Wild. So a great performance out of him. We always joke about how it feels like he never makes the breakaway saves. He must have made 3 or 4 last night. He
Hmm.
was awesome
Very
there.
good.
He was
Very good.
awesome, even with 2 disallowed goals that did kind of help him out. But hey, the first one clearly offside, even though it was a disgusting pass from Sidney Crosby.
It's very
That
nice
was
play.
unbelievable. And then the second one, I was kind of like, okay, I saw the contact there. I mean, I see why they called it back, but I don't know if that was called against the Sabres. I think I'd be up in arms.
The
But who
video room
knows?
guys had a career day yesterday. 2 for 2 in challenges. And it's probably the reason we won the game. Like we would have been down 3-1. It would have been over. Completely different tone for this episode.
Yeah, 3 for 3 on the road trip so far.
To touch on some other things from that game, Alex Tuck and Jordan Greenway, who were fighting through illness, they ended up playing. Alex Tuck ends up scoring the first goal for Buffalo, and Jordan Greenway was logging some heavy minutes despite what they were fighting through. So great to see them. Hopefully, they're all nice and rested by the next game on Tuesday. And then lastly, Zemgus Girgensons with the game-winning goal with just about 5 minutes left in regulation. A good, greasy Latvian goal.
Good garbage goal. In front of the net, wins the battle, puts it by Jari. A goal that we needed too, because I don't know, the momentum most of that game was not in our favor. We were getting outworked a lot, but good teams find a way to win, and we won the game.
I also felt like after those two disallowed goals, I felt like the game flipped on the Sabres in terms
Hmm.
of the refereeing. Like they were on the penalty kill a lot.
Mm.
And that 5-on-3 obviously was the biggest proponent of that. They almost killed it off too. They were about 8 seconds away, but
They
obviously
did. I was
Christian's best
about
friend Eric Johnson didn't tie up a stick.
No, I was about to tweet out because I was covering that game that the PKs look really good tonight. And right as I was about to press tweet, yeah, they scored. How often do you see a 5-on-3
Yeah, it's a
like,
five
and
on
they're both
three.
called at the same time? Like you don't see that very often.
It's a long 5-on-3.
Yeah,
But going back to the refs when you said the game kind of flipped on them referee wise, I mean, they're good challenges. Like both those goals clearly disallowed. The goaltender interference one, I guess you can make a case for. Either way, that's what the challenge is for. The refereeing shouldn't like I know maybe you call a lot on one team, you kind of gotta, flip it back like a weaker call. But like in a situation like that, I don't think there's a case for referees to be like, okay, now we got to give Pittsburgh a little bit of you know, a
Uh,
boost. It's like,
that just
no.
that's NHL refereeing.
I
They
know,
try
but
to
it's
make they
just
don't I was saying this, I think I said this the other night. They don't call penalties, they call games. They try to even things up, make it a fair playing field. If one team gets one call, they're probably going to try to give that same team their own chance to get a call. So,
especially in Pittsburgh when all the fans are cheering refs you suck. So they were trying to get that off their backs too.
a tad of external pressure.
Yeah.
But those are the two games. The Sabres win 2 in a row. I think that's the fifth time I've said they've won 2 games in a row because they won 2 in a row. We didn't think they'd do it. So, looking ahead, this is their chance. Currently, they're 2 games under 500. I believe they're 6 points out of a playoff spot. Obviously, they've probably played some more games than the teams above them.
yeah, a lot like at least a few more. I want to say 3 is probably the average.
But while I wouldn't say the wild card spots are within reach, they're within the realm of possibility. And you can get yourself to within reach with this upcoming homestand. The Sabres' next 5 game, well, actually, it's a 6 game homestand against teams that these are winnable games, more than winnable. They'll have to do the impossible, beat the Seattle Kraken, but then they get the Ottawa Senators at home on Thursday, who are in free fall. Then they take on the PDO Kings and the Canucks. Then they play the Sharks. And then they play the Blackhawks. And then they play the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are by no means on their own roll. So this is it. This is their one chance. And we've been saying it for a while that we'll know whether or not they're going to be in this race any longer if they do well in this upcoming stretch. And they've collected 3 of their last 4 wins, and they head to home to face some of these winnable teams.
Yeah, and the Sabres over the past few seasons have been known for not being able to get it done at home. Like this is do or die. This is the time where you got to break that narrative. You have your home fans in front of you, and I promise you, if you string a couple of those games together at the beginning, like these next 2, 3 games, if you win them, you're on a 5 game win streak. You're gonna have sellouts. Like the fans are gonna be there. So this is the opportunity that the players they've said that they love playing in front of the fans. This is your chance to really win them back. Just start stringing some wins together. Don't come out next game and lay an egg, which I kind of expect them to do, but I hope not.
Well, that's the thing. If you beat the Kraken, this can seriously turn into a winning streak. Because,
Yeah,
like I said, you have the Ottawa Senators who are in free fall. And then you have 2 games that should be layups. You have the Sharks and the Blackhawks, who, by the way, are without Connor Bedard in your home building. Sure, there's trap games. The NHL is a league of parity, but you got to win those games. You just have to. So if you beat the Kraken and the Seattle Kraken, they're on a roll right now. Okay, they've won 6 straight, but they're not going to be playing for 5 days. So You're going to be fresh. Well, they'll be fresher than you, but you're going to have played more recently than them. Win that game. Win that game, and you have a chance to turn this into something.
Just win. L. Davis, just win. Just win, baby.
So before we get off of Sabres topics, there is one more notable thing that did happen before the Montreal game. Rasmus Dahlin is your Sabres representative for the 2024 NHL All-Star Game. He gets the Sabres selection. The only thing I will say, well, I'll say two things. One, good for Rasmus. Two, Casey Middlestat was snubbed.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, Darlene, he'll get it, and he'll probably get it for years to come too, just because of his name and everybody knows Darlene, and he just got a big contract. But he has not been close to one of our best players this year. Mitz has definitely been our best, and he's been putting up the points to support that. He's been putting up the goals on third line minutes, and he definitely deserves it. So
Yeah,
let's get him in. Let's vote him in.
There's no other way to put it. He's on a near 70-point pace as essentially their third line center, with most of those points coming at even strength. And it's honestly it's probably going to be his best chance to ever get in, at least as a Sabre, because it's a down year for Tage, down year for Tuck, Skinner. This is his chance. He's emerged as their best and most reliable forward. He deserves to get in. So it stinks that he didn't get that nod, but obviously you understand why. Rasmus Dahlin's a name. He is the league leader in goals by defensemen. I get it. But hopefully we can get a little campaign going to get Casey Middlestat in there. Get Middlestat mode in Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's vote him in. Use the hashtag.
Yeah. I think there's one more thing that I don't think we touched on because I think it was before the Montreal game. Okposo is out for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So that's something notable. Our captain's out.
I know you're broken up by that, Christian.
Yes, he is.
God damn it. I do not wish injury on any player, especially our captain, okay? That's it. It sucks. Hopefully he's back soon.
And the fact he played through that Ottawa game, which those last 15 minutes or so was just scrum after scrum after scrum, and he was in a few of them. So kind of gutsy by him, but obviously, like JP said, he goes down for a few weeks. So we'll see how that storyline progresses.
All right, before we get to some of the wider NHL stuff, let's close the book on the 2024 World Juniors. So, no Sabres come away with the gold medal, but Noah Ostlund and Anton Wahlberg, they do come up just short. They lose in the gold medal game to the Americans. They each get the silver medal. And I got to say, Noah Ostlund is dynamite. He was dynamite throughout the whole tournament. He finishes with 10 points. Just a superb tournament for him. He was outstanding. I couldn't believe that they gave World Juniors MVP to Jonathan Lekkerimäki. He was on Ostlund's wing. I can't believe that anybody that voted for him thought that he was the one driving play. It was all Ostlund. I couldn't believe he didn't have 3 or 4 points in the gold medal game. He was everywhere.
I think he's definitely on everybody's radar now.
Everybody's awesome.
Like, he's legit. He's one of our top prospects, and I can't wait for him to get over here. So,
but can I ask, like, where's the room for these guys? Where's the room for these guys? That's all I'm going to say.
If you have talent, you figure it out.
That's true. Don't get me wrong. That is true. But you got to make some tough decisions here. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Not all these guys are going to see the NHL. It's just a matter of numbers on a piece of paper. So what do you do? That'll be fun that'll be a fun topic to talk about going forward. But as of now, like, that breakaway goal and then him hitting the dab after that, it was pretty electric. Got the crowd going in his home country.
Yeah, that was some rock star stuff. That was a really, really cool moment. But like JP said, it's really cool because he played in the World Juniors last year, but with this one being his coming out party, it's the first time I'm sure a lot of Sabres fans really got a good look at just what he can bring to the table because he's playing overseas. He's not playing with the Americans or even the WHL. You can't. The opportunity to see him play is kind of it's minuscule in comparison to a lot of their other guys. So hopefully now people understand why he was taken 16th overall, why he was not only drafted before Kulik, but the Sabres themselves ranked him above Yuri Kulik. And you can see some of the upside that he brings. So fantastic tournament for Noah Ostlund. Hopefully he finishes his SHL season very well. It's such a damn shame he didn't play with the Amerks this season. That would have been fun to see. But the only things going forward, we talked a little bit about it last episode. He just kind of needs to fill out his frame, but the hockey sense is there, and obviously the skills there. It's all there for him. Great tourney for him. Now for Anton Wahlberg, solid tourney for him too. He looked really good. I Noah Ostlund's wing. Obviously, he's got less finesse than Noah Ostlund, but being a bigger guy, that's kind of expected. His defensive game was very, very good throughout the tournament. Obviously, the offense just kind of didn't shine through as much. So, good tournament for the two Swedes. Unfortunately, they do come up short in that gold medal game. I don't know. What did you guys think about the Ryan Leonard kiss to the crowd?
Unfortunately, come up short, Jonah. What are you talking about? Your home country just won World Juniors. Unfortunate for them, I guess.
I don't really root for countries in the World Juniors. Unless, if it's USA versus Canada, then go States, because obviously we are superior to Canada. But I mean, that a game like that, I'm kind of rooting for Sweden there. I mean, what are they, 1-7 in gold medal games now, all time? Or maybe not all time, but over their last 8.
Well, the thing about the kiss to the crowd thing, like, I mean, yeah, maybe it was a little much, but also Sweden's comments at the end of the game, their captain was like, it's tough to lose, and it just, makes it even harder when you're showboating. And I understand all that, but it's like Sweden hasn't been innocent with losing with grace over the past few years. I mean, for God's sakes, they threw their medals into the crowd, their silver medals into the crowd one tournament.
I was
And
here.
then, yeah, and then at the end of the game, what was it, a few nights ago, like there's just a big fight that started. Like maybe that was instigated by the US, but again, like, it's just kids, man. They're all young. It's a game. It happens.
Let the kids have fun. Let them play. If you want to grow the game, stuff like this has to happen. So all the people who are complaining about it, they're mostly Canadians. They're mostly just butthurt that they got eliminated and didn't even get a medal. So there's that. But, let the kids have fun. At the end of the day, I mean, these guys are younger than us. I mean, they are living their life. They are, winning the top tournament in the world for them. So let them have their fun. I thought it was awesome what Ryan Leonard did. And I agree with Jonah. I'm not going to root against the USA, but I am going to root for my prospects.
Yeah, you're outnumbered, Christian. That's
Okay.
right.
As per usual on this show, I'm outnumbered.
All right. So on to the other medal winning Sabres prospect. Yuri Kulik and Chechia do end up winning the bronze medal. Kulik finishes with a nice 6-6 stat line in his tournament. So very different from last year, because last year they lose to Canada in the gold medal game, and Yuri Kulik did kind of turn the puck over on the game-winning goal that led to Canada winning. So at least he gets to finish his World Juniors career on a high note. And honestly, I was really hoping that they would win this tournament, because the point was raised that if Chechia won the gold medal, what would that say about Kulik's World Junior career in like all-time conversations? Because, Chechia, not a country that's usually in the later rounds, and they would have had a silver medal, a gold medal, and then I'm trying to remember what they did back in 2021. But great World Junior run for Yuri Kulik. He was always such a powerhouse on offense for the Chechen team. Probably not, I guess it wasn't the dominating tournament that you would want from him, but he put up the point totals and they got their medal. What else can you really ask for? And
Yeah, he was electric.
As you would see, he wasn't the only really top gun prospect that struggled in this tournament.
Still buried the puck a ton. So
He did what he does best.
yeah,
Had a few
put the
power
puck in the
play
net.
goals, had some nice shots. So, he does what Yuri Kulik does.
And as I alluded to, or as JP actually alluded to by throwing some shots at the country as a whole, Team Canada was eliminated early. They go out in the first round. No medals for Canada. 0.
Was
So
that the
they go
first
home.
time in how many years?
It's been a few years.
They've only not medaled, I think, like twice in the past 20 years or something.
Yeah. Well, the story of the tournament for them, their big guns really didn't show up, and that
No.
does kind of include Matthew Savoy. He only finished with 1 point in 4 games.
And
So,
Rousseau, their goaltender, did not play well. So kind of handicapped them a little bit right off the rip.
yeah, the only one to really put up some numbers for them was Celebrini. So they go home early. The rest of the world cheers. Obviously not the tournament you wanted from Matthew Savoy, but like I said, he wasn't the only prospect that really struggled, even for his own team. I mean, Matthew Poitras was at the tournament, and he's been playing NHL games for the Bruins and been doing very well, and he didn't have a great tournament. So
No, not at
not
all.
the end of the world. Obviously, he was dealing with injury, as we know. Don't put too much stock into it, but not the tournament you wanted. And I think with Savoy having a down year, or a down tournament, I think you're starting to see some Noah Oslin truthers emerge from the darkness. Starting to see that maybe he brings a bit more to the table. I mean, we talked about it a bit last episode, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the months to come when we talk about greater acquisitions for the Sabres, but it is going to be interesting to see what prospects they do end up parting with. Savoy is the one with probably the highest pedigree, probably the most upside, and yet, man, Oslin is just such a fun player and might be the one they need more. So, storylines to watch.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to come down to a situation where you have a partner in place for a guy, and it's just going to be a matter of like who they want. So it might not be what the Sabres want to give up. It might be a case of what another team wants in return. So they might pick their guy. And if it's worth, the established NHL guy, I think that's what they'll do. So you never know.
Before we get off of the World Juniors, and more specifically Matthew Savoy was dealt in the WHL.
Yeah.
And the return was glorious. Glorious. Just a stockpile of draft picks.
I love the trades in the junior leagues. They are hilarious. Because it wasn't even just him. It was Connor Geeky too. Like they're rebuilding. Wenatchee's rebuilding.
I guess that's just you never see that today in
They're
the
like
NHL.
Second in their division or conference.
You never
too.
see it really.
Yeah,
You never see it.
It felt like an NBA trade.
I mean, listen to this. So Matthew Savoy goes to the Moose Jaw Warriors. Wenatchee gets a first-round pick in 2024, a third-round pick in 2024, a sixth-round pick in 2024, an eighth-round pick in 2025, a second-round pick in 2026, a first-round pick in 2027, and a fourth-round pick in 2027.
That's so stupid. Who comes up with that?
Do you think the deal was
of...
like being held up because the Moose Jaw wouldn't be willing to part with their eighth round pick next year?
I know. That's the
How does that get thrown in there?
That's a crucial pick.
I don't know. Wild stuff. Remember the Shane Wright trade last year? That was even more nuts.
Yeah.
All right. I say we jump into some wider NHL stuff. It's been a little bit. We gotta catch up on some big topics in the headlines.
Yeah, I'm a little out of the loop too. Like we haven't talked about other teams at all in probably a few weeks. So
let's get to the one that's kind of dominating the NHL headlines, and the Sabres kind of have been involved with this. So Ryan Hartman and Cole Perfetti. This has been an interesting one. The Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild have kind of, obviously being Western Conference opponents, they have had their spurts of scrums and stuff like that throughout many of their games, but it took a turn this season when Kirill Kaprizov kind of took some cross checks from Brendan Dillon on the Winnipeg Jets. And I believe it sent Kaprizov out for a game or two, or maybe even more. Not completely sure, but recently there was a face-off in another matchup between the two teams, and Ryan Hartman high sticks Cole Perfetti. And it was, you kind of see on the replay, as the puck is dropped, he kind of waits for Perfetti to go for the puck, and he just puts his stick straight up in the air towards Perfetti in the face and just gets nailed. And Cole Perfetti revealed in a later interview that not only did Hartman say he did it on purpose, in retaliation, Cole Perfetti was mic'd up for that game. So they got him in 4K. They got him in 4K. But
yeah, that was ridiculous.
The funniest part about it, the NHL can't use that against Hartman. Because
Really?
in the 2005 CBA, it said that the trade-off was that so the players would be mic'd up for the league. You can't use any of those recordings against the players.
That's weird.
So Ryan
That's
Hartman
really weird.
could literally have said, yeah, I high sticked you because of what happened last game. It can't be used against him.
That's insane.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, that 100% should not be omitted. Come on, that's like it just feels like it's just like what's it called? Found evidence? Is that what it is? Or it's just like clear cut? It's right there. But you can't use it against them because of legal jargon. That's
I kind of get it, like why.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much trash talk in the game. Like, you know how many of these players, like if they were to do that, players would probably be getting fined left and right or getting suspended for stuff they're saying because it's the heat of the moment. People say some out of pocket stuff. So I understand why, but then again, it's like, I mean, if he said, yeah, I high staked you on purpose, and then you can't use that in a case. I mean, it is weird, but I mean that's how the legal system works. That's some stuff has to be omitted. So it's weird, but it is what it is. It looks obvious in video too. So I don't think they needed the recording. I mean, it was very obvious.
The conversation has to be asked though, like the NHL hasn't, like, stuff like this keeps happening. You have a player deliberately going after a rookie, deliberately doing so, and there's no repercussions. And as we'll get into now, Nick Cousins has been terrorizing the league with this sorts of stuff. His latest incident going after Valimaki on the Arizona Coyotes, and it's kind of like he's skirting the line of what's legal and not. Valimaki goes down on his knee to block the puck from leaving the zone, and Cousins goes after him while he's down on one knee. And Jason Zucker, who knows what Nick Cousins has been doing the past, basically this whole season, goes up and just boards him.
As he should.
Clear as day. Clear as day. And Zucker, yeah, he should get not only a penalty, he got a suspension. He should get a suspension for that. But it's at the point where the league it's not policing any of this stuff. Because Nick Cousins, as I said, has been doing this. Remember the debacle about a month and a half ago when he went after Eric Gudbranson, boarding him from behind, and there was no penalty. He didn't get suspended for it. And Gudbranson just later in the game goes out and starts pummeling him in the middle of the play. Because that's what these players have to do. It's self-policing.
I feel like the NHL has made it more apparent over the past few years that they're not going to police bad behavior. They're really just going to police retaliation, which in fact makes it worse for everyone. And it also makes it worse for, players. Like teammates. You're going to go out and you're going to defend your player. It's like, the one guy who's terrorizing the ice isn't going to get any sort of enforcement on him for certain reasons. And then you got to do what you got to do, and it happened. You get, suspension, a fine, all this. I'm sure Nick Cousins has been fined, but it's out of hand. Something's either the board of safety or the NHLPA or the NHL, they have to rewrite some of this stuff because it's not going to end well. It's going to go down. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get much worse before it gets better.
Screw around and find out. That's what happens to players who are gonna, start instigating stuff like that. Like it's gonna come back to you. So
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way for the players to react than to just police it themselves. I mean, it's so inconsistent. I say the Sabres were involved with this because remember Eric Robinson's second game as a Sabre gets booted from the game on like a borderline. Well, I shouldn't say borderline. It was a boarding penalty. They gave him 5 in a game for it.
Yeah.
And Kyle Poso in the post game is complaining about Evander Kane's hit on Jonas Brodin a game before, which was twice as bad. Or it was at full speed. Evander Kane totally drove his back into the boards, and there was no call. And actually, Ryan Hartman went after Evander Kane in that same game. And that's what you have to do, and that's what's been happening here. Because then it was like a night later, Cousins hits Goodbranson. There's just no consistency across the board. They're not suspending anybody for this. I don't know if you guys saw, but Kevin Bieksa had a great rant on it on the Hockey Night in Canada panel last night. Totally went after Cousins. And he brought up a good point. You remember what the Department of Safety did against Rafi Torres? 25-game suspension and then a 41-game suspension. When's the last time they've handed out a suspension like that?
That was probably the last one.
Yeah. I mean, since then, what's the longest suspension that they've handed out? Shane Pinto for betting?
Yeah.
yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
Seriously. There's no consistency, and it's just another case of hockey's the best sport in the world. It is oftentimes the worst league in the world.
I completely agree. There has to be a discipline hierarchy for consistent bad behavior. If you continue to do what you do, you're gonna get the Rafi Torres treatment. I feel like that hasn't been around at all anymore. But that's something that they need to, maybe circle back to, because again, it's just gonna get worse. That's it.
I will say it is tough because, if you want to bring up the other, full contact sport in the NFL, they are penalizing players hard this year.
Yeah.
Like fines left and right, and it's almost too much. So I get what the NFL is trying to do, but I mean, they are finding these players a ton of money for just, football plays, and it's not even that bad. So, I mean, the NHL is on the opposite. They're not penalizing players enough, but it is hard to be at that perfect middle line because there's always going to be someone complaining, and there's always going to be plays that happen like this. So it's just tough with these full contact sports because one thing can happen one night and one ref thinks it's awful, and then another night the same thing happens and the ref was like, oh, that's hockey. So I think this argument will always happen, but the NHL can definitely do better.
Yeah, I saw that thing with the NFL, how hard they've cracked down on fining guys. Like some of these guys on rookie deals are losing a tenth of their salary in fines. And more than half the time they're like looking down at their paper because they get like a letter and they're like, wait, what was this for? Like, I don't remember. To go back and watch film and it's literally like going in to help with a tackle, but your head hit the player first because you're leading with your helmet or something. It's unreal, but they got to find a middle ground. The NHL should find a spot between where they are now and what the NFL is doing. Start there, see how it goes, and adjust.
Speaking of injuries, everybody is hurt on the Chicago Blackhawks. Everybody.
Mhm.
Tank is on.
Poor Connor Bedard, man.
The tank is in full steam. So Connor Bedard is the latest recipient of an injury, breaks his jaw on a hit by Brendan Smith, and he'll be out for the foreseeable future. But he wasn't the first domino to fall. Far from it. I want you to listen to the amount of names that are on the Blackhawks injured reserve. Connor Bedard, Taylor Hall, Seth Jones, Tyler Johnson, Anthony Beauvillier, Andreas Anastasiou, Taylor Radish, and Joey Anderson.
And Corey Perry.
And yes,
And,
I was gonna say the
Corey
ghost of
Perry
Corey
as well.
Perry.
I beat you to it.
The ghost of Corey Perry. That's like their entire lineup. Like all their good players. Do you want to listen to what lineup they iced today? It's an
No.
11-7 lineup.
It's
Oh my God.
It wasn't a question. I'm gonna read you the lineup.
Oh no. I'm not gonna it's gonna be Lucas Reichel and a bunch of no names.
So this is their forward lineup. Their first line is Kurashev, Dickinson, and I shouldn't even say former Sabre, former Rochester American Colin Blackwell.
An AHLer is on your
Oh my
on your
God.
top line. A Journey AHLer is on your top
Oh my
line.
God.
Reichel, Entwistle, Gutman,
Who?
Donato, Sanford. That's their third line.
I know Zach Sanford, Stanley Cup winner.
Kachuk, Senny, and Johnson. That's
Kachuk,
their
look, Kachuk.
It's not Kachuk, it's Kachuk. And here's their defense: Vlasic, Magna, Tenorti, Murphy, Korchinski, and Zaitsev, and Phillips.
And
And
his eighth pair defenseman scratched, JP Aarons.
And
See,
then
you know,
Mrazek's in goal.
They're icing that roster, and then we have Tyson Jost, Jacob Bryson, and Riley Stillman
Why
just
would they not
cooking.
claim
And
them? Why would
that's
they
what
not
I'm
claim
saying.
those guys?
Yeah, I
Yep.
know.
Did you know Bryson was actually scratched last night?
He was scratched for the Americans.
I don't know if he's fighting something. I don't
Wow.
know why, but he was scratched.
I would have to imagine he's fighting an illness.
I would agree, but I
Even-
saw that. I was like, wow.
Even Tyson Jost, like that, he could benefit the.
He'd be the first line center on that team. Are you kidding me?
They should trade for Victor Olofsson, and he will be putting up numbers
Oh
for
my
them.
God! You see their power play heat map. Get
Oh my
Victor
God.
Olofsson on the right side, and he will be a big bright spot in an empty blue cavern.
As Christian is alluding to, Michael McCurdy put out a tweet earlier today that the Blackhawks' offense at even strength without Connor Bedard is better than their power play without Connor Bedard. Somehow they generate more offense at even strength. Insane.
Jesus.
Insane. Just about, you beat me to it. Now they're going to get Celebrini.
That organization does not deserve another first overall pick. Plain and simple. They don't deserve another one for another 50 years.
Some other NHL news. William Nylander does look like he's about to get a max extension
Yeah.
from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and a max extension.
He's going to get paid.
Reports are circulating that it sounds like he's going to get 8 years at $11.5 million.
Yeah. Deserved.
Crazy.
Nuts.
Deserved. He's so
After
good.
this season, yeah, like
He's
he's
so
playing
good.
that way.
He's been there arguably in their last few playoff runs, the way they fizzled out and the offense has gone completely cold and all your big guns are silent. He's the only one, especially last year. He's the only one that I've consistently been like, this guy's carrying the load right now. So he is far and away worth the money. So good for him.
Happy
bad
for
his-
him.
Too bad his brother wasn't as good as him.
Happy for him. But when are the Leafs going to learn that investing so much in 4 or 5 players maybe doesn't always work out? And I mean, maybe the Sabres will be in that same position soon, but it does not always work out when you got Tavares, but his contract is coming up. Matthews, Nylander. It's just ton of money put into a few players.
Paul Marner is very upset that Nylander's about to get $11.5 million.
We've been talking about this for years though. Like the Leafs core four was making 43.5 million between all 4 of them.
I
They've
think-
made
no, I
it
think-
work.
I
They've
think that
made
was-
it work.
I think that was all 5.
It's
That was
fine.
plus Riley. Now it's
Yeah.
40 million with the actual core 4.
But
Which is
still,
nuts.
they've
won one
made it
playoff
work.
series.
But still, like I'm talking about consistently getting to the playoffs and not having like they've been up against the cap, but they haven't been penalized for it.
Well, I
They've
would
made it
hope
work.
so. I would hope if you're paying $50 million for 5 players that you make the playoffs. I know what you're
Yeah.
saying, but like I would hope so. And my point, because we were talking about a little bit about this last episode, how their core is just so good, they're gonna make the playoffs year in and year out. But you would hope. I mean, imagine if they were in a situation like the Sabres where they're fighting and clawing to get into the race, and they're handing out this money.
Mm-hmm.
Insane. Like that. William Nylander is worth that right now, but man, that's still like a risky kind of gamble. I mean, he's gonna be what, 29? He's gonna be making $11 million till he's 37 years old, and it's another contract negotiation. I think they were late to jump on. Imagine you probably could have gotten him for like $9 million because he would have became eligible to sign an extension. I guess it would have been this summer. I don't know. I feel like the numbers were more around even just 10 back in the summer. Now it's 11 and a half, and he just won't stop scoring.
Yeah.
He's already got 50 points. All right, last segment here. It's been a little bit, but considering we are back in good spirits, let's talk about a team that stinks.
That stinks. The Ottawa Senators. Welcome back. How many times have we had them?
I don't know if have we done them for this yet?
I don't know if we've officially done that, but you know what? We talk about them so much. It was inevitable that they'd be in this segment. Man, just an absolute tire fire this whole season. I'm surprised we didn't talk about them earlier. Now they're stumbling in the standings, even though they played
stumbling. They're in free fall.
Even though they played less games,
they had
still.
well, that's the thing. They have all these games in hand, but they keep losing them all. Like, I know it seems like we really crap on them a lot, and we do. But to me, it's actually amazing that they are struggling as much as they are, because now DJ Smith is gone.
Yeah,
and
I mean they have Giroux, they have Stützle, they have Kachuk.
Nobody's hurt.
Nobody's hurt. They have Chikrin, Jake Sanderson, Norris is there.
And they've been without Pinto, but Ridley Gregg has kind of stepped up into that rookie role.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I really don't get it. Corpus. I would leave him out of that group. That's the one.
Keep him off the list.
I mean, I think since day one of free agency, we were all like, "What? That's the contract he got? 5 years for Jonas Corposalo? Because he had one good season. He's living off that bubble."
I know that this might not make total sense, but I guess it kind of does. So you ever see the meme where it's like all the goats and then it's the dog at the end of it trying to act like the goat? That's Corposalo on that team. You have a team full of I guess studs, but they've been losing. It's kind of like how the Sabres have been. Like they have really good players, they just can't win. And then you got him. It's like, nah, keep him off the list. Nah. But this team stinks. They stink.
It's legitimate too. Like, because what I mean by that is the record's bad, their goaltending is bad, and contrary to last year, the story of their team last year, their offensive play driving numbers were actually pretty good. This year, they have an expected goal share of around 46. It's not like this team is getting snake bit by finishing like they did last year. They're just not good. Legitimately not good. And it's like I said, it's just weird. I don't understand why it's this way. Stützle has kind of taken a sort of step back. Kachuk has taken a step back, especially with him. I mean, a few weeks ago, he called out the fans.
Mm-hmm.
The only one really still performing is Claude Giroux. Chikrin's hot start has kind of faded off. Shabbat's been in and out of the lineup. Jake Sanderson, I feel like you haven't heard that much about in a while.
What is it, JP? Say it. This team what?
They stink.
They stink. This team
You know,
stinks.
who called it? the Sabres hero on Twitter, Rosie called it.
Shout
And
out
he's
Rosie.
He's
Shout
the
out
one
Rosie.
who wanted us to talk about this today.
Yep. Shout out Rosie. He wanted us to talk about them on this segment. But I'm being honest. We were going to talk about them anyways because they really are sticking out as a team that they stink, and
Yeah.
it's kind of notable. So
Could I interject real quick?
go ahead.
I'm getting word that the Jacksonville Jaguars just turned it over on 4th down. The
Let's
Buffalo
go.
Bills have clinched a playoff spot. There will be another game next week.
So I've been refreshing my phone the last like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think this recording this was probably a good way to deal with the nerves.
Yeah. I wasn't glued to the TV watching a game that really shouldn't matter, so I guess tonight, a little less nervous. Still
Yeah.
nervous, a little less nervous.
It'll be
I'm
interesting.
excited. I'm excited.
Me too.
For me, it's like I was telling you guys, there's really like no bad scenario in my opinion because you either win and you win the division, or you lose, but then you just get to play Miami the next week anyways.
Yeah.
So should be fun either way. It's like you're playing with house money almost. Who would
Yeah.
have thought that we got back to this point?
Yeah.
Be able to win the division.
And then we might be the 2 seed.
And then we might be
That's
the 2 seed.
that's the thing though. We want to get home advantage for
We need that
you know,
2 seed.
the entire playoffs unless we face the Ravens. So
I
do that, and then if we have to face like the Chiefs or somebody, like it's at
bring
home.
him here.
Yeah, bring 'em home.
I'd rather chew broken glass than watch one more Bills game when they have to go to Arrowhead. And it's not that I think that they can't win in Arrowhead. It's just so frustrating. I'm like, why can't Patrick Mahomes and all these boys come here and face our crowd? It's so annoying. Ugh.
100%.
If the Bills don't win tonight, they've already clinched the playoffs, but they don't really deserve it. They're not going to go anywhere if they can't beat this Miami team. They're without so many
Especially
players.
this Miami team.
Mhm.
Yeah, like they're like Mostert and Waddle are out. They probably would have played if their season was on the line, but like they're missing so many players: Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Mostert, Waddle.
Oh,
mean,
and if we
Their
win the
whole
2
offensive
seed,
line is like injured.
if we win the 2 seed, we wouldn't play Houston. We'd play Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. That's much preferred. Much preferred.
Houston would be the 6. They'd go to Arrowhead.
That's right. That's right. Much preferred. I'll
Mhm.
face the Steelers. They're a very mid team.
Keep your mouth shut.
Come on.
They're the definition.
No
of
jinx.
mid.
No jinx.
JP's playing with fire. It's funny. It's either this team doesn't deserve to make the playoffs, or they're the 2 seed and bring on the mid teams.
I guess.
Crazy.
All right. So with Ottawa, it's weird because it came out yesterday. I think Darren Dreger tweeted out. Supposedly, they're thinking about moving out a lot of pieces on the trade front and changing the makeup of the team, but at the same time, they don't want to touch the core. How do you do that? It's just a bit of a mess of a situation there.
Seems like something the Sabres have been struggling with for years with the old core. They're like, core's there. How do we elevate them? And how do we do it without breaking them up?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just, it's unsalvageable. Sometimes it's just, it's a hollow core.
I'll say right now that Josh Norris contract, that guy's
An
making
abomination.
$8 million for the next, I think, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, and we've been really
Man.
hard on Dylan Cousins. We've been hard on him. And Josh Norris has been doing equal to less than what Cousins has been doing for more money.
Well, remember last year when Senators missed out? Well, it was by a few points. We didn't have Josh Norris all year. Like, imagine when we get Josh Norris back. Well, I don't know. Look at it now.
Hey, and they're missing Shane Pinto. Okay, this is where the season turns around. They're getting him
Third line
back this
center.
week.
Oh, I didn't realize
man.
he's back.
Yep. This is where the season turns around.
I will say though, the NHL is a better place when the Sabres and the Senators are both good teams. That's all I will say. It's electric when they're both really good small market teams. It's awesome. So hopefully we could get it turned around, and
Don't
hopefully they can get it turned around too.
careful with that. Don't call the capital of Canada a small market team. They might come after you for that.
Well, they're in Canada already, so they basically are a small market, unless they're Toronto or Montreal.
Hey, we got the Sabres and Senators rivalry is back, even though both of our teams aren't doing the
I was gonna
best.
say
We're
it's a
fighting-
rivalry amid.
We're
Yeah.
fighting in the basement right now.
And the Bills in Miami. So the
Yeah.
two of our two best rivalries are finally back after years.
You think the Bills Miami? Do you think that's the biggest rivalry?
I thought it was the Bills Patriots, but that wasn't much of a rivalry. That's more of just us getting,
I was thinking more
knocked
Jets,
around.
honestly. I feel like
I
they're a
think-
sleeping giant.
We've had a lot of history with Miami, a lot of bad blood. I think just over the years, it's more Bills Miami. And I mean, our freaking fan bases have been going at each other for the last few weeks. So I think it's more Miami.
All right. There is one more thing I wanted to touch on before we start to wrap this up. Old friends Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart. More specifically, Sam Reinhart. So they will both be going to the NHL All-Star Game. They were selected as each of their team's representatives. But Sam Reinhart had a hat trick last night, and that puts him on pace for over 50 goals this season and right around 105 points.
Thanks,
What-
Jason Botterill.
What? Wow. I mean, even as someone who loves Reinhardt, did not expect this from him.
No.
He's been unbelievable.
I mean, he did it in his what's this, his 10th season?
10th season contract year, so I guess you can be like, oh, he's elevating his play now, but
Pay that man his money. He is due for his money. This organization, time and time again, gave him the backhand bridge deal, 1 year, 2 year. Extend that man to the end of his career and pay him what he deserves because he's always been a good player.
I did tweet this out, but I will restate it on here. If Jason Botterill signed Sam Reinhart to his 8-year extension back in 2018, the Sabres would still have him for another 2 seasons today at probably around $5.5 to $6.5 million.
Swing and a miss.
But we would have never gotten Levi or Kulik.
True,
So,
I guess.
It's true, but
UPL would be our top goalie right now.
I think, man, I don't know though. Could you imagine a 1-2 punch of Tage Thompson and Sam Reinhart? Or even
be awesome.
or even Reinhart back on the wings. It's funny that he's the exact type of player I think they're missing.
Yeah.
We've been saying forever they need a second Alex Tuck. There's your second Alex Tuck, man. And
Then go get him.
I know. Well, that's the thing.
Bring him back.
I don't think the Panthers are gonna have the money to give him what he wants. So if he hits the open market, I mean it's tough because you don't want to give the guy 7 years. He's 29 years old, but it's tempting. It's very tempting. He's the player they need, and you probably
Contract's
have the
gonna be
money to get him.
insane.
Well, I know, that's the thing. If Nylander's
wouldn't
getting
do it.
11 and a half, I feel like Reinhardt, you're talking about 10 million with him.
I couldn't do that.
Let's say Sam Reinhart wanted a 5-year contract for $10 million a year. I'm thinking hard about that.
I would consider it, but I don't think it's gonna be 5. It's probably gonna be like an 8x10, and I think towards the end of that contract, it's gonna be a rough one. So I don't think I would do it. I'm not even sure who would want to come back to Buffalo. Like I don't think he has bad blood. I mean, he ended it good. Like everybody saw that embedded once he got traded. He said that he saw a bright future for us and that trusted what Kevin Adams was doing. He still had a lot of losing seasons, a lot of bad memories. Like I can't see him coming back.
The famous phone call where Adams talks to him, goes up to Terry Pagula, tells him it was Sam Reinhart, and he said he was wishing us well. And Terry just kind of like, okay.
Terry goes, who?
I don't think he has any bad blood. I feel like maybe he would consider it. It's probably not going to happen. But it'd be fun to think about.
Offer him
If
a
it's-
bridge deal. 2 years, $4 million, prove it.
Hey, you know what? You can bring him up, but if you want to talk about another player that's been good since he left us, let's talk about our favorite defenseman who Christian had a jersey of, Rasmus Ristolainen. He's been pretty good with the
Everybody-
Hold on.
For our folks watching us on YouTube, Christian is he's about to give us a treat. I can't believe he still has it in his closet. He's going to pull this jersey out right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe this is consecutive seasons of him doing good. John
It's John-
Tortorella is the Ristolainen whisperer.
I was gonna say that's Tortorella, baby. That's his type of player.
Man, everybody just does better when they get away from piss poor regimes. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
There's
The old navy
Ristolainen
blue.
jersey. Oh,
What a jersey.
man, that's disgusting.
What a jersey.
That's disgusting.
It's probably the first time he's had that on in like
It had,
what
it had,
3 or 4
I
years
was going
now?
to say, you probably
3
had to
years?
dust that off too, right?
Big
Yeah.
Risto fan back in the day.
You had to break that back in.
First time I've put this on in years.
Can I
That's,
ask can I ask when you got it and then why you got it? Was there like a cultivating moment?
I got this jersey, I want to say around 2015, 16, maybe 16, maybe 2016-ish. I got it because I played defense. He's a big I like the big defenseman, as we know from this podcast. And the goal he had against Ryan Miller when he came back to Buffalo with like 16 seconds left. I had that celebration he had as my wallpaper on my phone for years. It was so electric. So shout out 55.
I'm sure you were thinking, man, this guy's gonna win a Norris someday.
This guy is gonna bring the cup back home. But good for him. He's been doing better.
Back home.
Back home. It was never home.
I'm good for him. He's been doing better. I'm glad he's thriving under Torts' system. So like, he's also had a lot of losing seasons. So I know he trains, he works really hard. So
Flipping
I'm glad
tires.
he's doing better. Flipping tires, big Viking activities back in Finland.
I don't miss him playing, but I guess I do miss the big guy. I guess I miss him being around.
The big dog.
Yeah, he had some funny moments. I'll never forget him running into the boards.
That was so funny.
I'll never forget his the one post game presser where I think a reporter asked him, "How do you think you played?" And he was just like, "Shit."
He was real. He was real.
He was real. He was real. All right. So I think that is pretty much going to do it for this episode. Thank you everybody for watching or listening. As we approach this new week, the upcoming games for the Sabres, like we mentioned much earlier in the episode, Tuesday, they face the Seattle Kraken at home. Thursday, they have the Ottawa Senators at home. And then Saturday, and 4 o'clock, can you even call that a matinee? 4 o'clock Saturday game against the Vancouver Canucks. So a big week ahead of the Sabres. Your two toughest games of this homestand are going to be Seattle and Vancouver. Then hopefully you can get some sort of retribution against Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
So their next game after that, I believe, is Monday night. So I'm guessing we will talk to you after the Vancouver game. Hopefully this streak turns into a winning streak.
Fingers
Hopefully.
crossed.
So that'll be the upcoming Sabre schedule. But I guess before we sign off, I guess we can talk a little bit more about the Bills. We want to get this episode in before they took on the Miami Dolphins tonight. As we talked about a bit earlier, they have clinched a playoff spot. 5 straight years of playoffs for the Bills. Must be nice. But
At least one Buffalo team's doing something.
they take on the Dolphins tonight in a battle for the AFC East.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that all
And the
goes
2
well.
seed.
And the 2 seed. I did want to get this episode in a bit earlier so that just in case of a worst case scenario, it didn't turn somber.
No, but if they win, they get the division, and they play Pittsburgh at home. If they lose, it's Miami part 2 in Miami again.
But other than that, I think that will wrap up this episode. They'll be playing next week, so stay tuned for the next episode of the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast. They will be covering this Bills playoff run, which is hopefully lengthy. So go give those guys a listen. But other than that, if you want to follow us on Twitter, follow us at the Sabre Report, or on Instagram at the Sabre Report. Follow us on TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you want updates for the pod, follow us at Sabre Report Pod. And like we said, go give our friends over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast a listen. But other than that, I think that'll do it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll see you guys next time. Go Sabres and go Bills.
Let's complete the one Buffalo weekend. Bandits, Sabres, let's go Bills.
Go Sabres.